You have to live under a rock to not see all of the headlines that are pointing to the fact that Florida is actually leading the nation in a massive shift in the housing market. That leads us to wonder, all of us here in Orlando, that if you own a home here now or you're considering buying one, what exactly is these changes that are going across Florida actually doing to our housing market? And you have to understand there's a web of different micro crises going on throughout Florida that are affecting the housing market. Number one, we already know there's a massive hidden cost of ownership, and it's slipping into the Orlando data, particularly the cost of insuring your home. I've been saying for weeks and weeks, and I've been mocked multiple times in my comments, gently mocked, I'll say, as I've pointed out that Disney World's traffic has been incredibly low this year, that the summer months never took off, and how I visited many weekends during May, June, and July, timeframes that I would never visit the park, to find empty parking lots and shorter waits on some of the most mainline attractions. Surprised that's slipping into our data, and as it turns out, we're a heavy Airbnb market supporting that economy. So if the traffic is down, maybe, just maybe, that could throw a wrench into the housing market in parts of Central Florida. Now in today's video, I'm gonna break out for you a few trends you need to pay close attention to in the Orlando metro area. I'm also going to show you 3 to 5 different markets in the Orlando metro, zip codes that are at very high risk of toppling prices in the next 18 months. And conversely, I'm going to show you 3 to 5 zip codes in the Orlando market that are undoubtedly still a seller's market, or at very least, the handful of zip codes that have held out. You're going to pick up on some threads that are going to show you exactly which markets are hot and which aren't so great, so that even if your zip code's not listed, you're going to have an analysis of just how it might be doing. I'm Jared Jones. If you're new to the channel, this is my Orlando focused channel at doing consistent deep dives and data analysis for the Orlando metro and maybe some close surrounding suburbs. So if you're for that and you appreciate the research of what I'm bringing to you, go down below and smash the like button so as many people as possible can see it. It helped the channel and I appreciate it. And consider subscribing so you do not miss a solid update on what's going on in the Orlando market. All right, my friends, let's jump in the day. Let me show you what we're looking at. This is a high-end software program that I've purchased where we aggregate all the data from Realtor.com and a bunch of other sources like Zillow. And out of it, we aggregate some key sources of data to determine whether or not these are buyers markets or sellers markets. You'd say, Jared, well, how do you figure that out? Well, number one, we take all the entire marketplace and we aggregate how long it takes to sell, how many price cuts you're seeing in a specific zip code, how much unsold inventory is stacking up against history. Is it high? Is it low? Is it growing? There's a factor for days on market to see if there's extenuating for sell times. And lastly, we're also considering the mortgage calculation. What is affordability like in a given area based on income? Because ultimately, we all know buyers have to purchase these properties. And if the local income does not sustain the high cost of mortgage rates at a given time, then ultimately that's also going to affect and create a forecast for what home prices might do in a given area. So with that in mind, let's start by talking about the hottest market to see if we can figure out what's going on in the Orlando marketplace. So number one, if you jump ahead of me, you're going to ultimately see there's a lot of blue in the Orlando marketplace. Zillow has recently come out and measured us a neutral market, meaning we're kind of in the middle between buyer and seller. And that is true for some markets, but some of our zip codes have fallen completely into buyer strength, where buyers have more control of the negotiation, sellers are at their mercy, and ultimately it's a changing time for a lot of marketplaces around Orlando. So let's take a look. So to start, we're going to go right downtown in Orlando. So right here, you're going to see the very hottest populous marketplace is 32803. Now, this particular market, you can see at the peak of 2022, it was at the strongest point. Sellers had complete control of the marketplace right here. This is whenever it was the hardest time, was probably February of 2022, and particularly the end of 2021. You would have to put multiple offers. You'd have, competition. You waive all of your contingencies. You couldn't get an appraisal. You're going to give them your firstborn and maybe let them have the keys to your car in order to get them to accept your offer. Now, look what happened after interest rates climbed. It started to slide into the beginning of last year. And then many of these markets gained some sea legs back and pulled strength towards the seller side again. But you can see that even though this is the strongest marketplace, again, dividing the graph, there is a middle line here at the right around the 50 point. So when it drops below a calculation of 50, it tells us that all the 5 metrics that I told you relating to buyer affordability, price cuts, and all that, the aggregating how price is responding in a given zip code drives it to become a buyer market against the seller side. Now, you can see that ultimately it is changing, but yet 32803 remains one of the strongest populous markets in our market. Now, look at this. Now, you would see, hey, Jared, I see 3 there that don't look blue. Are they all voting for Trump? No, that's not a political map. This is actually 32789. This is Winter Park, which is dead even on 50. And then you have 32804, which I believe memory serves as a College Park zip code. Again, this is downtown historic homes, desirable and affluent. Okay. So you'll remember I did a Winter Park update not too long ago on this channel. Got a pretty good view count, 3,000 to 4,000 people, I think, watched that. And I was noticing that in the affluent market of Winter Park specifically, you say, Jared, what makes it affluent? Well, its average price, median sale price is higher than the rest of the market. So Orlando in the metro area is around $400,000 median, $399 to be exact. And you'll find that Windermere, Winter Park, Golden Oak area at 32836, some of these markets we're going to see today, those are much higher. They're 700,000 plus. So they're nearly 100% higher in median sale price. And what's happening in those markets is that, we're seeing twofold situation. Sellers can be more patient because maybe they're not getting to the bottom of their cash that a lot of other people in the market are. And if there are potentially layoffs, things of that nature, it increases inventory. So we are seeing the unemployment rates rise in Florida and as well as nationally. We're also seeing credit card debt, going through the roof. And ultimately that affects different base of population differently. Okay. Look what's happening. Ultimately, these are not settling towards buyer markets as fast as some of the others. Now you say, Jared, I see 2 more right there. Yes, you do. Well, you don't see Horizon West, by the way, which is Winter Garden. You actually see that well into buyer territory, but look at Windermere. Windermere is not, and neither is 32836, which 32836 and both Windermere and South, you would say, Jared, what are these known for? These are known to be very high Butler chain of lakes, waterfront, premier waterfront locations. Okay. So these are going to sell at a very good number. Okay. Now the same deal applies. Higher affluence, less push in for their listings. They don't have to sell. They can sell when they want and maybe they're discretionarily choosing not to. The other thing is the buyers. We're seeing this around the country. The upper end of the market is less affected by these hidden costs. They're not as affected by some of these other issues. And ultimately what's happening is those buyers in the luxury end in Florida, I would say that's 1.5, 2 million up. Okay. You'd say, Jared, isn't $1 million home a luxury home in these areas? No, it's not. It's a upper middle class home. Okay. No offense to anybody selling their home for $1 million, but take a look at it. That's a $500,000-$600,000 house of 5-6 years ago. And that is our middle class. Okay. So it's upper middle, no less. But point I'm making is we're seeing across the data, US wide, the luxury end seems to be more healthy, less affected. The entry market and the middle market, people selling first home, going to second home, which all of these, I tell this to everybody on the marketplace. When we're doing these kinds of updates, you have to understand, you have to have people moving up the ladder. You can't just have the upper end trading and the bottom end falling. It's going to precipitate into negative realities. And you're seeing those change right here in front of us. So we're going to take a step further in understanding those markets. But you say, Jared, well, if you pull back, do you see any other reds? Yeah, there are some. There are outlier markets that are not highly populated. Geneva, no offense, Geneva, but I think there's like 5,000 of you out there. Your market still looks pretty strong. 32709, again, these are very low populous. Down here, Kenansville, again, no offense. Those are not big markets. No one lives there. Okay, they're probably going to be buyer markets forever. But take a look at these areas. Now we're going to go to the other side of the category. You say, Jared, where I see some dark blue. What is that? Well, the 29, look at this. I think this is Altamont Springs, San Lando. These are older houses. Again, they blew up. They blew up in COVID. And now all of a sudden they're not the prettiest on the block. Okay. And I think ultimately that's what's happening. You see where are the areas that are changing. We see a ton of blue in the South, which is Osceola County. We're going to come back to that in a second, but let's talk about the worst of the worst, which, by the way, Davenport is considered Metro Orlando by us locals, because if you look at the edge of our Metro map, the government stops it right here. But if you look, this is Highway 27 in Four Corners. This is Disney right here. This is outside of the map, which I'm going to come back to, but these are leading the way. These are some of the worst off buyer markets. I'm going to come back to that at the end of the video, but stay tuned for that. But I want to kind of highlight, say, okay, well, if it's not those officially aren't in our metro, where is the weakest week inside of our actual marketplace? Well, you have these areas right here. I see one right here, one right here, one right here. Let's talk about them. Are there any common threads? Well, yeah, again, I said Altamont Springs. This is San Lando, right? You have San Lando Springs, sorry. This is a bunch of older one-level homes, like 70s built. And these people, man, they were lucky to get 250,000. Like, no disrespect. I know there's a lot of nicer homes and higher price, but this was affordable, right? Can we all agree to that? Jump in the comments. Tell me if you agree that 3270 was affordable 5 years ago, but now it's harder to insure. It's hard to get insurance on. It needs a lot of rework to close them, all these different things. And I would say that that's true of every single one of these zip codes, but they used to be affordable. Now they're not so affordable. And I think a buyer is now pushing back saying, I want affordable. Otherwise I go somewhere else. Could be the case because look at the other two. 32839 is an old area. And this is, I think, John Young Parkway, Rio Grande. We're just outside of the Mall at Millennia. Tell me in the comments if you want to live here. Okay, let's just put it that way. Okay? I'll let you guys talk about it in the comments. Look over here. Okay, so the top three, this is 32822. Now, this right here is Cimarron Boulevard going all the way almost to the airport, I think. Yep, almost to the airport. This is, you have Holden in here somewhere. I think Curry Ford Road runs through here. We're not quite to the 417. We're in the southeast. This is what? Older area. This has been developed a long time ago. There's a lot of manufactured housing in here. There's a lot of older homes. There may be some newer stuff sprinkled in, but ultimately this place is actually used to be affordable. Okay. So I think some of this is just a day of reckoning. These homes are sitting longer. Buyers have more choice, and it's a microcosm of just probably more choice, but these are having a lot of inventory stack up. Okay. A lot of inventory, days on market's getting tougher, and affordability is tough. Okay. Affecting that buyer bracket. Now, if you're not in these three areas, you say, Jared, well, what's next? What's the next weak link? Right over here, West Kissimmee. So you have 34747, and everybody in Celebration, let me hear from you in the comments, because you're in the same zip code. Doesn't necessarily mean you're probably, in fact, this is why you have to do your research in a given market, because I would guess that maybe Celebration is over indexing this. I didn't do my research on it, don't care to, but Celebration has a higher dollar. Like you can buy a $500,000 condo in Celebration. The houses there are 700,000 base entry on up to multi-million. Over here, you have luxury market Airbnb. Okay, so you say, what's 34747? It's massively Airbnb. So this is Reunion. This is Champions Gate. I think North. Yeah, Champions Gate's here. I think this is right above it. And again, this is highly popularized by Airbnb. Okay, let's take a look. Now that's a 30. That's a 30 on the market. That's way down there. But look at this one. This is some of the lowest in the area, 28 and a 29. So you have 28 and 34746, which is South Kissimmee, going all the way down to Westlake, Toho. Now, if I zoom out, look where this is, everybody. Way at the bottom of the market. Now, they built a bunch of real estate here, okay? And by the way, as we talk about these areas like 34771 in St. Cloud, these areas had major increase in supply over the past 5 years. A lot of houses built in these areas. It tends to skew the numbers because you will see high inventory against history. Like if I pull 34771 and I show you how many homes are for sale now versus 5 years ago, there's way more homes for sale in that area against history, like more than has ever been on the market. Yet it doesn't seem to be tipping over in real time. You like scratch your head, like, how come there's so many homes on the market? Like more than ever, more than 2018. Like we were selling a lot of homes in 2018, 2019. Like our sales are way off in 2024. There's a lot of homes on the market in that area. Is it tipping over? And the answer is not yet, or not. Don't quote me. I didn't say it's going to tip. They're going to take a beating in the comments. Listen, the reason why is because over 5 years, the inventory probably is up 30%. Housing units are way higher in some of these markets. So you have to understand that you are seeing more inventory, but ultimately that's also because of there's just more houses than there were in history. Okay. Not all of these. I don't think there's way more housing units like there is over here in 34746. 34746 and this area north of Point Siena, which is 34758. Sellers in this market, you have to pay close attention because you are having a real hard time in majority of these markets. Okay. You have to. And I don't have a listing here right now, so I can just shoot you straight. If you are in these markets, you're like, oh, I'm going to try and see if I can get what my neighbor got 3 years ago in 2021. You're toast. You're going to be on the market forever and probably still never sell. So you have to pay close attention in any of these markets that are incredibly blue. Now let's take a look. You can see, hey, there's a 30 again. It's 34772. It's the rural part of St. Cloud. Okay. You notice the downtown area of St. Cloud is performing as good as Winter Garden is. So it's running a 35. And then up here in Horizon West, you're running a 35. Okay, you have a lot more inventory, no question, but you're not seeing your prices getting nailed yet. You're not seeing days on market starting to drift, but it's not getting crazy, but it is here. And it is here, and it is here. So Harmony's running a 30 as well. So 347. So these areas in St. Cloud. And the interesting thing about the Osceola market is, and one to watch if you're there, is you have to pay attention because those markets have the highest amount of FHA, which is the first time homebuyer type purchase where there's very little skin in the game. Those people have very low assets. They have very low savings. They're the ones borrowing on the credit card to buy the grocery. And I'm not denigrating anybody. I'm saying it's a risk. It's a risk of mortgage failures and delinquency and a lot of short sales popping up and things of that nature. So again, it's a risk. It's a risk. What does it matter? If you're going to own your house for 10 years, don't worry about it. Okay. But if you are thinking I might sell in the next 12 months, heed what I'm saying. Plan accordingly. Okay. Consider it a gift. And give me a thumbs up in the downstairs if you appreciate that. Take a look at this. This is outside of our area. So this is Orlando, right? So look at this. This is the north edge. Look at the northeast edge of Lakeland, Winter Haven, MSA. This is the metro area for Lakeland. Highest foreclosures in the state of Florida, by the way, coming out of this market. I wonder if they're coming from here. Because if you look at the most beat markets in this area, you've got, looks like this is Winter Haven, but look at Davenport. Holy cow. Davenport 33896, 33897. Whew. What is this? This is Airbnb. This is Airbnb is all this is. You have, again, don't come in here and you're like, I'm thinking of buying for my own primary res. And you're not going to buy in an Airbnb neighborhood that allows short-term rental. Two worlds here. Okay. So pay close attention when you're doing business here. And same morning, look at this. So you have West Kissimmee. Notice the corridor. So all this is, south. All this is blue. And look at this is already shifted. And you say, Jared, what is it? Well, a lot of this area on the far west is Airbnb. Supply is high. Unsold supply is very high. Okay. And that's impacting the price. So price is changing in real time in these particular markets. Down market is changing, putting up radical down market times in a lot of these areas. And again, as I told you, I've always said, do your homework because one community is different from the next. They do not all act the same. They're not all identical. Okay. So one's going to respond differently than the other. You have to know what your neighborhood is doing. Okay. And honestly, like if you're planning a sale, you'd say, Jared, what does it matter if I know I've got to sell and I'm already deep in a buyer's market? If you know you're going to sell, it just means time isn't necessarily on your side now. Okay. Because people always ask me like, well, if it's bad, if this market is shifting where I'm at, is this, should I, I'm just like, it might be the best time you have. Okay. It might be the best time ever if you know you are cutting and running. Otherwise, my other option is plan to hold it for a very long time. And then who cares? Like there's a lot of people in all of these areas that are in these properties next to nothing. And if the assumption is that they can handle the expenses, if they can handle the high cost of tax and they can handle the high cost of interest, all those kinds of things are not in a risk of burying them ever, right? Even if revenues change on some of these projects and they're not making the rental income that they were expecting, then who cares? But that's it. That's the update for now. Jump down below. Tell me what update you want to see in the Central Florida market next. What kind of video topics? I love to hear about them. And ultimately tell me what you're seeing in your area as well. Smash the thumbs up, drop a comment. It's a huge thank you to me and I appreciate you for doing it. We'll talk to you on the next one.